But would you name a starship for them, Star Trek? Today on Trekland Tuesdays Live. In fact, it is a Trekland Third Tuesdays Live today with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming at you right here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 and everything Trekland for some clarity, sanity, and the big picture in everything Star Trek. So welcome back, all TTLers, and any of you new folk who have managed to find us here on our Tuesday afternoon niche. Wow, we've been coming up on this. We've been doing this for almost 5 years now, every Tuesday, by some technical wonder. If you are new, hang on. I've got a soapbox to get off onto, a real soapbox today. Great topic, and I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to go out on a limb a little bit. Last week, the news was barely breaking, but I wanted to pitch in, pay homage, pay memoriam, pay all the props in the world to legendary visual effects producer and director in his own right, Douglas Trumbull. Cut his chops on the revolution that was 2001, A Space Odyssey in 1969, and then, was part of the Star Wars revolution, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Maybe if you go back and look at it, the guy who saved Star Trek the Motion Picture, maybe saved Paramount, because all the millions in guarantees Paramount had made to local theaters, to all the theater lines, with penalties guaranteed if they didn't make that December 7th premiere date. Not only the troubles inherent in the production, but when Robert Abel and Associates promises blew up, never should have given him more than a 7-Up and a jeans commercial to do. So Doug Trumbull comes in, hires his old friend and rival, John Dykstra. The two of them have everybody and their grandma working in Hollywood to do anything to get the damn visual, pre-CGI, analog visuals done. That was Doug Trumbull's list. And I want to say, on top of all that, I didn't realize it at the time, but just for me personally, aside from all those obvious credits, not that this was a plan or anything, but the very first movie I ever saw at an actual convention where I was actually staying overnight and wandered into the film room when those used to be a thing was his ecology classic Silent Running, where it was so visual effects laden that Doug won the right to direct the thing. And it was Bruce Dern and drones, robots that were cute, long before the droids of Star Wars. This was 1972, so 5 years before Star Wars. Huey, Louie, and Dewey and Bruce Dern were the whole movie. And the plants that they were saving on a spaceship apart from Earth after Earth had a bio-cataclysm. Wow. Our hats off to Doug Trumbull and the revolution. And just as recently as the last couple of years, I'm so angry at myself that I didn't get in to see the panel that Mike and Denise and Doug, etc., did with him to commemorate 2019 40th anniversary of the motion picture. I could kick myself for not being there. Fortunately, it's on video. Never had the pleasure to sit down with him. Of course, all the accolades, all the memorials coming in were more than warranted. You'd expect them, right? But one popped up, and it's somebody who I adore. We've talked briefly. Hopefully, we'll talk some more. It triggered something. This is during the European Portal 47 roundtable last week, during our Ask Dr. Trek with our members. And this popped up again, and it got me off on a tangent, and I thought I should share this in public. Because mention was made by Dave Blass, who's the art production designer, head of the art department for Picard season 2 and 3. And as we've seen, a dyed-in-the-wool fan who's sharing so much ahead of time. The secret's out of the closet. It kind of broke wide open during our 25th anniversary First Contact panel last October, which is now up if you want to go find it. And we're going to be pointing to this a lot as Picard moves along. But basically, he had some kind of reaction of, yes, we all applaud Doug Trumbull. We all love his career. We all bow down to all the revolution that he helped lead, the leadership, the creativity that he helped display, the people he inspired. So we're going to name a ship after him in Star Trek. And it brought up this old bugaboo of mine that in one form or another has been around for a long time, which is, I know it's lovely, and I know we want to honor our pioneers. We want to honor our loved ones, their creations and themselves. I just have this thing about honoring real people in canon universe Star Trek. goes back to, let's just say, Discovery, freshly arrived in the 23rd century, the 34th century, 33rd. Third season Discovery. Oh, look, there's the USS Nog. Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, look, there's the USS Janeway. Cool, cool. Oh, look, there's a ship that's the Eisenberg class, meaning somewhere there's also a USS Eisenberg. Not so cool. And it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that we all love Aaron and he was tragically taken from us far too soon. And we love the character Nog. So my point is, then fine, have a USS Nog. And you're naming it for Nog because why? He was the first Ferengi in Starfleet? Sure, cool. We've even got a reason. And I'm not naive enough to know that maybe in 800 years, there's a reason to have a stalwart Starfleet or Federation namesake named Eisenberg, who's worthy of having a ship named after him, an entire class even. That's not a reason. That's a texture, not trivia. That is a, phew, we've got wiggle room to do this. But this instinct to name things after real life people that are nameworthy, totally nameworthy. This isn't about the honoree. It's about the idea. Maybe this is my old man screaming on the lawn, hey, get off of me, you honorary bearing kids. Name the character. That's cool. Now, if it's a producer, creative that doesn't have a character to fall back to, I still don't like it. And I know, you're going to say, Larry, what about that shuttle, that Type 6 shuttle that they named for Bob Justman during Next Generation? And he loved to, I've got it over here somewhere, he had a photo of him leaning out the window in the front, and he used that to sign with when he did his rare signings. In fact, I'll go one better. There are two small, in cause and effect, when they show the primary shuttle bay being blown out on the D. They're going to decompress the shuttle bay, and you get that much of it. It was such a quick look that it wasn't worth building an entire set. So they used a Strathmore board. That set that you see for a blink of an eye is an actual full scale, not the stage set, which was always shuttle bay 2 or 3, the smallest of the 3 shuttle bays. But they tried to attempt to show the full scale main shuttle bay that was almost the width of the back end of the saucer on the D. They did it with cardboard. Cut it very quickly. I know this because one wall of it used to sit in Guy Ardeman's office at PDE, and it was cool. But it was flat because you had the protrusions, you had the high bay with the railings, and the homage to the original Enterprise hangar deck looks with the doors to the side. It looks very cool for that 2 or 3 seconds. But you see a couple of shuttlecraft parked on that hangar deck, on that shuttle bay, and those are 2 little Type 6 models, lettered for the Berman and the Pillar. Today, Sandra at Michael's widow has that little shuttlecraft sitting out on a shelf. One time I was over and got a chance to go take a lot of pictures. So yes, you're going to tell me this has been done before. In fact, full disclosure, so many of the Akutograms used to have the crew names, still do, I'm sure, the ones that aren't on camera. You could go see a star chart. You could go see, I know the little 2 and 3 letter acronym name letter combinations on buttons were people's first 2 letters and first 3 letters of their first and second names. You saw people with so-and-so star and so-and-so's planet and so-and-so world on the Akutograms all through TNG. That died off. That started to die off. You saw honorary names in astrometrics that are now HD visible. The West Wing cast misspelled. Yes. All of that's in there. It's all real world intruding on. Sometimes it's just an in-joke, much less an honorarium. But the Justman and the Berman and the Pillar were not going to be seen. That whole level, the pre-HD world, had all of that reduced in size, where people on stage visiting might see it. Like the rubber duck or the Nomad on the cutaway in Engineering on the D. That was meant to be seen as a treat for the crews to kind of lighten their load in a long 16-hour day. Now, they weren't meant to be in your face as fans. Although, we dribbled them out, and now Memory Alpha's going to town on all of them. But they weren't in dialogue. Now, I could be wrong. There could be one out there I'm not thinking off the top of my head. But that's the kind of thing that there would be a bright line between dialogue and in-joke, no matter what resolution your film was being shot at. pushed to the back. Now look, totally full disclosure here. If you go back far enough, any of you ever saw or had a copy of the original star maps from 1980, which were meant to correct and, fix and tweak the star maps that were in Franz Joseph Schnabel's original tech manual? Yes, there are like 2 or 3 pages in there. This was the first attempt to rein the scale in where it would halfway begin to make sense. Halfway, with the warp scale formula and the Cochrane constant, which we later started calling the Cochrane variable, which was the ultimate fudge factor, to basically make whatever you know about the classic formula or the classic formula with a variable that depends on the local density of space and matter. Whatever you do, it was meant to give you a fudge factor. But those maps, there's a back wall of maps here. And yes, my good buddy Jeff Mandel, who's worked professionally on Star Trek and who wound up later doing the Star Maps book that we kept building on with Stellar Cartography 1 and 2, those maps that I just showed, there is a back page that's very scarce on Canon stars, and Mike does populate this with all kinds of stars, Pal's World and Disney's World, THX 1138, not even Star Trek, but sci-fi homage, genre homaging stars on here. And I have to say that this is not the original project. My stars to correct and fill in what Franz Joseph had done, my first iteration, I had worked on, and then Jeff put it into his format to be part of his tech zine, the Officer's Manual. And when this project came along unexpectedly, which is a whole saga in itself, we decided not to publish what we'd been working on, but to flesh this out. Well, being in a different scale, nothing suddenly made sense. So to make it up to me, one of those stars that he named after someone, there's a Nemecek star. And if you go to a couple of my Facebook, if you go to My Star Media, the Facebook page, the bit up there is the Nemecek star. So it was years of being kitted at. I'm talking about when I was in grad school, pre-TNG, obviously. In the movie era, I had a lot of friends. Hey, Larry, show those kids your star. I couldn't go to a convention with friends anymore. We'd be hanging at dealers' tables, and somebody would demand that I tell somebody the story about my star. Well, not only was that embarrassing for me, but I didn't like it. It was my name on a piece of published star, ostensibly licensed. Well, it was licensed, but I did not like it, no matter who they were for. I called them patronage stars. We didn't have our modern vocabulary. I did not want my name on a Star Trek map. If there was nothing official, there was nothing in canon, and we're talking about 80 hours plus a movie. If there was nothing from canon to put on that, then leave it blank for now. And yeah, I know we were in a slow motion mode there, just a movie every 2 or 3 years, but that's what I thought. And so if you want to call me a diehard purist, if you want to call me a canonista in the worst way, that's where my instinct was, because to me, these projects were about recording what was said on screen, done on screen, and we had no place in that. Now, that was young me, being a stalwart 100%er, and then came the movies. And then came Next Generation, best of all, and came third season, and Mike invented the quadrant system and finally started to corral where everything was. And yes, using real science, the way these had been a startup for. And then Jeff took over that mantle by the time of Enterprise and hyper detailed it. And it was so cool to have the Maps book come out and have that hyper detail and that overlap, that marriage of real science astronomy and as much real science astronomy as Star Trek had danced with, making it all fit. Sometimes that being a tight squeeze, sometimes having to come up with some retcon ideas to smooth it over. But, now we've got the thing that Picard and Discovery and the animateds and presumably Strange New Worlds are all going to use as a Bible, and it's awesome to be a part of that. So those are stars, though. That's the star path. And you know what? If you get a hold of an Okudagram from second or third season, Next Generation, there'll be Sulikowski's star and Mises World, and go down the list. Go down the list of crew people, creatives and crew people who are on there. And yes, Memory Alpha does have the Berman and the Pillar and the Justman all listed as Type 6 shuttles. What we need to do is very quickly have stalwart historical figures named in the appropriate time area. Those could be namesakes for. But to me, when you say there's the USS Nog and over there is an Eisenberg class, it's two different things. You say, they're honoring Nog as the first Ferengian Starfleet. And then you go, Oh, it's for Aaron. Well, that's cool, but okay. You're madly already trying to figure out who in Star Trek canon the Eisenberg ship and class were named for. Unless for some reason, by the 32nd, 33rd century, there were a group of actors from the late 20th century who were all worthy of suddenly being named for real Starfleet ship names. That's what it comes down to. Unless, yeah, at least in Discovery's season 3, season 4 case, you've got 800 years of history that's going to be filled in. And you can come up with something by then. You can do that in the 24th century for the Berman and the Pillar and the Justman too, although they're shuttlecraft, not full ships, but still the idea. And maybe that's just more fun. And maybe you're saying, oh my God, Larry, give it up. Shut up about this. I'm sorry. It's where my head goes. It's where, if this is my hill and my battle that I'm going to die on after so many perished for Klingons, maybe that's my thing. And I'm not going to die on this hill. I know when to withdraw and retreat, because as so often happens, they put it up on the screen and we love most of it, but there's always that one thing you go, okay, we'll fix it. Okay, we'll go back and we'll smooth that one over. Oh, Kronos in 4 days? Okay. Oh, your sensor scan at the Battle of the Binary Stars gives you a star chart of the Little Dipper? Like you're standing on Earth, not out on the frontier of next to Gamma Hydra. And oh, wait, you're not really near Gamma Hydra because the producers wanted you down here, not up here on the other end of the neutral zone. Because everybody is in love with the memory of that and neutral zone, and no one wants to remember that there was a Romulan neutral zone and the Klingon neutral zone got invented. Thank you, Kobayashi Maru, Star Trek 2. We had it fixed until everybody started coming up with a Klingon neutral zone. Oh, if the Organians had access to a copyright court, they'd be hot there. Sorry for the rant. You're seeing Dr. Trek in his true colors. So yes, I know. Now the challenge is just to come up with somebody named Eisenberg who was a big wheel, who was worthy of having a ship name. There was a Captain Eisenberg in the pre-burn. There was a very famous Captain Eisenberg, I'm sure. Anyway, I loved all the accolades that a lot of our younger fans were shown and pointed out to about Doug Trumbull. Absolutely. Do we have to stampede and have a ship named for him? I'm sorry, Dave. I'm sorry, all of my beloved friends working in art and visual effects. Can we find some other way to honor Doug besides a ship? If not, I'm hoping whoever's going to write that in, whoever writes that in, has the back headcanon, and they share it with us, so it's not headcanon, for who this Trumbull is that we're naming a Starfleet ship of the. Actually, if it's for Picard, it'll be early 25th century, late 24th century. I'm probably off on such an anal rant here that most of you, I'm guessing 100% of you are going, oh, Larry, get over yourself. I'm sorry. That's where I come from. And you know what? Coming up with a reason, or even naming a character after Eisenberg, after Doug Trumbull, having a character named that's a namesake, or having a region. I mean, the runabouts were named for rivers, not people. So, that namesake could be attached to a lot of things. There could be a Trumbull colony that's known as a sanctuary for biodiversity. It could be a space arboretum named the Trumbull Arboretum, and that's what the ship is named for. That would be incredible. Of course, there'd have to be a real life Trumbull, not Doug Trumbull, still. But the fun would be there. I could go for a 2 or 3 version system there. I'm all for that. I just want to know the path that we use to get there. Yeah. And I'm just wondering, maybe there was a Type 6 shuttlecraft batch. We're all named for incredible 20th century media producers. For some reason, the night that admiral got drunk and decreed that. Anyway, I wanted to pay some homage of my own to Doug Trumbull. Don't get me wrong. And I love Dave and all the gang. I am so excited for Picard coming down the pike. Oop, that's another 2 months. And what they're going to be doing, and what between Terry sneaking out Instagram and between little shots of some of the details, some of the graphics, and some of the cool sets, and Dave Blass's hints. I can't wait to sit down with both of them and talk about this after the fact. You can have your week-to-week teasers and promo. That's fine. In a year or two, that will be nothing but trivia itself. We'll get to the long-lasting stuff because suddenly I don't want to say it. It makes sense. It makes sense to be excited about it, or it's worth being excited about. It feels like you can be proactive in seeing what's happening here instead of reactive and going back to constantly fix things. That's not a knock on anybody. It's just the way the world works. And first out of the gate sometimes are not the folks who wind up carrying it over the finish line. And we can see that with Next Gen and Voyager and DS9 and Enterprise. So in all the ways. Okay, I am off the soapbox. If you're just going to be in LA on your own or with a group, either for vacation or your business or whatever, if you've got a day to spare, you want to come and have your own LAOA mission. The sets are great to go visit, go up and see at Star Trek Tours, but what about all the other sets that weren't on a soundstage? And for most of Star Trek's history, that was around greater LA or maybe San Francisco. So if it wasn't in Discovery and it wasn't in Strange New Worlds upcoming, but it was Picard or any of the prior Star Treks, we can go there. I can work with you to work out a day tour. Maybe you want to do 2 days of touring. That's coming up. We're going to reauthorize. We're going to reopen the door to our Trekland Treks there. I'm just using a postcard. Here's the thing. Your 24-hour third Tuesday special, and we don't have to do these. We should plan it for this year at least. 150 off, nearly a third off for your day trip. That's like 6 hours of touring. It's lunch. It's me personally leading you, and you have takeaways, souvenirs, and information. Best of all, it's all been planned by you with my guidance. So we have a great day. 1, 2, 3 people. If you've actually got a group, we'll get a minivan. But that's the scoop. But to kick it off, to reopen it, and I'm doing this with you guys, with everybody live right now, ahead of the main thing. We're going to reopen the Treks. By May, I'm thinking by May and June, people's comfort level will be back to where we'll be out, because we'll be out in open air, but we'll be indoors as well, depending on what you pick. So we want to be maybe even maskless by then. Let's hope. So that's your third Tuesday special, gang. By midnight tomorrow night, your time, let me know. Get in touch with me. Ping in where you're watching me right now. Get into the comments or write me at larry@larrynemecek.com email and say, yes, I want to claim this month's third Tuesday, I said, special for this month, and get that $150 off. All right? A Trekland Treks, and we will plan it. I would say probably no earlier than May. We'll see what's going, but May is to get you in for the summer. All right? All right. Other than that, gang, yes, it is exciting. It is exciting to be here. I'm just teasing. I'm teasing about the whole name a ship after Doug Trumbull, but that's my reaction. That's my action. Who is this Trumbull, famous person? It's obviously not that person who merely worked in 20th century entertainment circles. Who was the value to the Federation historically and Starfleet that you're naming this ship after? I know. Well, I know one person I want to honor and pay homage to. All of our TTLers here in Patreon, our TTL clubs. So yes, my thanks to Diana Hopkins, Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, Anne-Marie Siegel, Keith Runbach, Justin Porteous, Nathaniel Robinson, and Blaze K. And our live wires, Rusty Harrell, Hubbard Gunn Johnson, Jalen Bullock, Robert McLean, Alan Hoensi, J.R. Poole, Byron Bailey, Dave Gregory, and Casey Shafsky. If you're wondering what I'm talking about here, they're all folks who are helping me do our live stream, expand our live stream, remind me to stay on Chrome now. Thank you, Restream. For $5 and $10 a month, a shout out and access to our early guest interviews. I know. We'll get there. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. Simple. You might see somebody else. You might see another creator by subscription or by project that you want to support too. It's all good. It's all good. And hey, if you have not heard the news yet, the Trek Files is back. It's our 8th season. We opened last week with David Livingston. This week, someone you may not have heard from or heard, but he's in a great field that's growing. We touched on this with my live panel for at home San Diego Comic-Con at home panel this year, but space law, real life space law today. And space lawyer Maclay is Mackley is my guest to look at a speech Gene gave about meta law, future law in the 70s. Some interesting ideas. Yeah. Mackley Carroll's an interesting guy, and you want to check that out. It's up today on the Trek Files, podcast.roddenberry.com, or just go to Facebook. Facebook is where the documents are. So the only podcast with homework. And of course, hang around for Saturday where you're watching me right now. We'll be back on these Trekland channels for Life Support Live. Dr. Trek and Dr. Ali, one of us is a real doctor, boldly going through uncertain times. Some life tips, some Star Trek geek out on a theme of the week. 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 UK time, 7 Central Europe. And yes, we're global. We try to be global. If you noticed in the chat, we've got folks from all over the world. Everything I do and build, I try to make it global, at least in some aspect. We have a roundtable that's Europe-based for their prime time in Portal 47. Our Ask Dr. Trek roundtable goes twice a month for both ends. And of course, if it's European prime time, that means it's midday in the States. And that midday European roundtable is where I got the idea for today's topic again. So there you go. Oh, we've got some, maybe some, maybe some breaking news that I did not have as we leave the air this week on our YouTube after thing. Apparently Paramount Plus has announced they're expanding to the UK, South Korea, and the Caribbean by the end of second quarter, early summer. So by the end of June. And they will be in Italy, Germany, France, and Switzerland, and Austria by the end of 2022. So the current cycle of new shows rolling out will not be Paramount Plus available to our friends in Central Europe until the new year. But at least there is a firm lot. Alrighty then. And now, maybe we're leaving you for now if you're watching on YouTube later, then I just want to say, stay healthy, do all the things, please. Stay woke, check your sources, and check what you're hearing. It might be true and you've just never heard it before, or it might be BS. Most of all, trek well, everybody.